OCD isn't about cleanliness or control. It's a brain loop that won't turn off, and these loops can be rewired. OCD is probably the most misunderstood condition in mental health. If you or someone you love has OCD, you've probably heard advice just stop thinking about it. That's irrational. Why can't you just let it go? Or you're being dramatic, or you worry too much. None of these statements could be more wrong. Here's the truth: OCD is not a personality quirk, it's not an anxiety subtype. OCD is not about perfectionism or organizing or cleanliness. OCD is a circuit disorder in your brain. It's a malfunction in the brain's error detection and habit formation systems. It's one of the most exhausting, misunderstood, and isolating conditions a person can experience. Today, we're going to finally explain what OCD actually is, the neurobiology behind these intrusive thoughts, why compulsions feel so uncontrollable, why logic doesn't help, why reassurance makes it worse, the hidden forms of OCD people never recognize, and how TMS can help break the loop when nothing else works. So let's start at the beginning. What is obsessive compulsive disorder? Here's what it actually is: the brain level explanation. It's not a behavioral problem, it's a looping disorder inside the brain's threat detection network. So here's what happens. Here's the first thing: the error detection system becomes overactive. This is called the cortical striatal thalamic circuit, or CSTC. In OCD, it fires too often and too strongly. So your brain is sending these false alarms like something's wrong, something bad will happen, you didn't do this right, you need to fix this, you need to check this again. The second part is intrusive thoughts force their way to the front of your thinking. These thoughts are unwanted, they're distressing, they're repetitive, and they're ego dystonic, means they're not consistent with your values and your normal thinking. They're not chosen, they're not reflective of who you are, and they're not dangerous. The third part are compulsions that temporarily reduce anxiety. And these compulsions can look like washing, checking, counting, repeating, confessing, seeking reassurance, mental rituals, avoidance. And they work for a moment, but then the anxiety returns even stronger. The fourth part is the loop strengthens itself from intrusion to anxiety to compulsion to relief, and then again and again. And this is the OCD cycle. And it's not a choice, and it's not a lack of willpower. It's a brain circuit stuck in a feedback loop that you can't get out of very easily. Here are some symptoms that people never realize are OCD. Most people think OCD means cleaning or symmetry, but here are some other real forms. One of them is harm OCD, this fear of causing harm, even unintentionally, fear of violent images that arise out of nowhere. The second one is relationship OCD, constant doubt about your partner, worthiness, or rightness. Another one is called contamination OCD, fear of germs, chemicals, illnesses, and ritualized washing to avoid all this. Another one is checking locks, stoves, safety mechanisms. And then there's pure obsession with no compulsions. These are internal loops. There's moral and religious OCD, fear of sinning, offending God, or moral imperfection. There's also perfectionism OCD, fear of being wrong, making errors, or being judged. And then there's also sensory motor OCD. This is a hyper awareness of blinking, breathing, or swallowing. So if someone says to you, this is irrational, but I can't stop, that's usually OCD. And here's why logic doesn't always work. You can't logic your way out of OCD because the logic center is not the one that's generating this distress. OCD comes from the threat system, the error detection system, and the habit circuit. So when these areas overfire, that prefrontal cortex, the logic center, loses all of its override power. And this is why you know the stove is off, but you can't stop checking. The intrusive thought isn't real, but your body responds as if it is. Your partner loves you, but you can't silence the doubt. You're not irrational, you're not dramatic. Your brain's alarm system is completely misfiring. Let's talk about the hidden hell of OCD. People with OCD often live in silence because these intrusive thoughts feel shameful, compulsions feel embarrassing, rituals are hidden, people misunderstand, reassurance makes it worse, the person feels crazy even though they're not. So most OCD sufferers are intelligent, empathetic, responsible, sensitive, deeply self-aware, and very much not dangerous. These intrusive thoughts are the opposite of intent. OCD attacks what you value most, and that's why the thoughts hurt so much. So what keeps OCD stuck? Three things reinforce the loop. Compulsions. They reward the brain temporarily. The loop strengthens. Parents, partners, friends trying to help by saying, "You're fine, it's okay, nothing's wrong." This often backfires. Avoidance. Avoiding triggers shrinks your world and feeds the OCD. And none of this is your fault. The system was wired to just keep firing. How is OCD actually healed? OCD requires a combination of several things. The first is circuit level intervention, calming that overactive loop, restoring prefrontal cortex control, and rebalancing that CSTC. The next is exposure and response prevention, rewire that habit loop. Then it's nervous system regulation, reduce that baseline anxiety so the loop weakens. And traditional methods help, but many people with OCD plateau. And this is where TMS really changes the game. Here's how TMS helps with OCD, the real science behind it. OCD has a specific FDA clearance TMS target, the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate. And here's what TMS does. It quiets the overactive error detection system, so false alarms stop firing nonstop. It strengthens the cognitive control center, so intrusive thoughts lose their grip on you. It interrupts compulsive pathways, so the urge to perform rituals weakens. It reduces the anxiety that fuels the OCD loops so that those triggers shrink. And then it increases neuroplasticity, so new, healthier patterns replace the old ones. People describe the shift as the thoughts are still there, but I don't believe them anymore, or the compulsions don't feel urgent anymore. I can let things go. My brain feels quieter. I finally have the space between the thought and the reaction. This is what happens when you change the circuitry. And here's what OCD recovery actually feels like. The truth is, OCD recovery doesn't begin with relief, it begins with distance. Distance between the thought and the fear, distance between the urge and the compulsion, distance between the intrusive image and the panic it used to trigger. And here's what patients often tell me. They experience less mental noise, less urgency, less fear, fewer rituals, more flexibility, more presence, more control, and more peace. And the thoughts lose their power, and the compulsions lose their meaning, and your life gets bigger and more full again. So here's the most important message if you have OCD. You are not dangerous or weird or broken or dramatic or hopeless. You're someone with a hyperactive error detection circuit. Your intrusive thoughts are not who you are, and your compulsions are not your identity. Your rituals are not your personality. OCD is a pattern, and patterns can be rewired. And your brain is capable of change, and your life is capable of expanding, and you deserve the freedom that OCD has been stealing from you. Now, if you saw yourself in anything we just talked about, if you recognize your patterns, your thoughts, your urgency, your exhaustion, if you're tired of trying to manage OCD on your own, here's your next step. Just start a conversation with us. Tell us what your OCD looks like. Let's figure out whether your brain is ready for a reset. No pressure, no judgment, just answers and real support and a real plan. Your loops are not permanent, and your freedom is not lost, and your brain is not stuck. It just needs help turning the volume down. We can help you find quiet again. We can help you find quiet again. Please reach out.